Right, well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another one of these videos where I try to give every single ship in Star Citizen a brief description. And today I thought I was thinking about doing Anvil, and I was thinking about doing one of the other. You got Anvil and my brain is farting down here. Where is it? Aegis, there we go. Anvil and Aegis, they're the two big military contractors. Then I'd seen just how long the list of ships that are out for those two are, and I was just like, let's go for something a wee bit smaller today. And so I thought, Origin! Everyone loves Origin, and so I think we're going to leave the big military contractors alone for now because those look scary, and just the sheer number of ships. With that said though, Origin, who are Origin? Let's give them a brief description. Origin are a civilian, 100% civilian manufacturer. They do not make any, they don't even make industrial ships, and they don't even make military ships. It's 100% just civilian, and not even civilian industry, just civilian. They are the luxury manufacturer. They are the pleasure yacht manufacturer. They are the sit back with your glass of wine and smile manufacturer. They're all about being sleek, they're all about being elegant, they have that sort of smooth finish to all their ship exteriors. Their interiors are really nice too. They've got like big, luxurious, grand staircases to look down upon, or up upon, or anywhere from, just to look good. They've got bars on most of their ships, they've got escape pods on all their ships. They have quite good defences in the form of shields and that kind of thing, and quite okay armour as well. Their nice smooth exterior is okay in the armour department. Yeah, not much else to say about them other than the manufacturer front. They have a premium, so their ships do come at a premium cost, and they're normally slightly subpar compared to others in their sort of field, because they're sort of sacrificing some of that ability to make room for their extra indemnities and their bars and their stuff. So they're normally slightly worse at whatever they're trying to do than the ships of their same sort of size, tier and scale, while still costing slightly more than the ships and their same size, tier and all that, because they've got that sort of premium tax on top. And that's if you're buying them outside a game or inside game, there is a premium tax there. For bragging rights in some ways as well, like the 890 jump, a lot of people want one and have one, just as sort of like a bragging rights. The luxury yacht, I've got the luxury yacht, or maybe they're part of an org and they use it as their like guild hall or their place to have meetings, their flagship, or their sort of pompous outings. It's bragging rights, Origin. Yeah, not much else to say. Let's jump on and go into their first ship alphabetically, which if I get down to my notes will be the 100 series. So the 100 series, it comes in 3 flavours. We will talk about the base 100 first, and then we will talk about how the two sort of variants change that up slightly. So the 100 series is described as a starter ship, but compared to the two main starter ships, is incredibly lackluster. Is what I was talking about earlier on, how they are slightly worse than ships of their scale and size. Well, the 100 is slightly smaller than the Aurora and Mustang, and then it's slightly worse again. It is really, for me, it's a glorified runabout pretending to be a starter ship. This thing is nothing but a glorified runabout. It's a runabout with a quantum drive. That's what it is. It's got really weak as a fighter, so if you're taking on anything that is a dedicated fighter, you're just going to get blown straight out of the water. It is not designed for fighting at all. It's got a tiny storage capacity. It doesn't even have room for someone else to sit in the co-pilot seat, and it doesn't have anywhere to stand up in. It's literally, when it comes to comparing it to the other two stars, when it comes to comparing it to the main street starships, the Aurora and the Mustang, it has nothing. It has nothing. It is a glorified runabout pretending to be a starship. It does have that elegant sort of exterior sort of look of Origin, but with nowhere to stand up in, you're not really getting your Origin anything, your Origin niceties, without an area to stand up in. Yeah, there's not really much else to say. The two variants, so you've got the 100i, then you've got the 125A and the 135C. The 125A is slightly better at fighting. It has a half decent armor for its size and capabilities and ups the armament, so it is getting to the same sort of level as the other starters when it comes to fighting, but again, it's not a dedicated fighter. The armor will help you survive, the extra guns will help anything else that is not a dedicated fighter be a bit more worried about you. Again, I would not be taking this ship out if I was planning to fight. It's still just a little tiny little thing. It's not great at fighting. I would much rather get a dedicated fighter than this wannabe starter ship, wannabe fighter. It is, yeah, not much to say about. Then you got the 135C, which has some additional storage capacity. Does take the storage capacity up to 6, which the 135C is a nice amount of storage for a starter ship. Again, I'd much rather probably just have an Aurora, which will then have the option one day to have the even bigger storage capacity on there. I can't remember how much that will be off the top of my head, but an Aurora or a Mustang would still probably be a better idea. So yeah, the 100 series, it is a runabout, wanting to be a starship. It's trying to be a starship, but it is a shuttle runabout. Nothing but a glorified car. It is a car. Think of it as that. That's what it's good as. It's not good as a starship. It's good as a car, a runabout, that type of thing. You need a ship. Like you take it and you store it in your carrack, in the little hangar bay of your carrack, so that the whole carrack doesn't have to go down to planet. You can jump into this, fly that down to planet instead if you're going planet side, because a big ship like the carrack will take a lot of fuel to go up and down between the atmosphere and planet, and a lot of time too, where this thing is a little small, nip in, nip out, job done. It's a runabout. Like the shuttle in Star Trek, so they don't have to take the whole Enterprise down to planet, they've got the little shuttles that can go down instead. Think of that as this. Or if you are in your house nearby, outside the spaceport, you keep one of these in your garage, so you can hop out, go into that, and then fly to the spaceport to get into your bigger ships and fly away. That's what it is. It's a runabout. Glorified runabout 100 series. So, what is next? I spent way too long talking about the 100. And let's talk about the 300 series. Now, the 300 series is what the 100 series wants to be. The 300 is it's a premium starter ship, I would describe the 300 series as. And you have the several variants that sort of fine-tune the 300 series to be the style of starship you want. You've got the 300i, which is the great jack of all trades, master of none. It is slightly weaker on the guns and combat side than the Mustang, but slightly, I think it's roughly the same as the Aurora. I think it's got 3 size 2s guns, whereas or is it 3 size 3s that gimbaled down to size 2s? I think that's what it has off the top of my head, but I cannot remember exactly. It is a great jack of all trades, has some SEU storage space, it has a bed, it has got a beautiful interior with this beautiful sort of limousine sort of feel to it on the interior, and it's got a little kitchen, it's got all the amenities you're going to need in a starter ship. You could live from this thing. You could use this as a hab instead of a hab and fly around and live inside your little 300i quite easily. It has this, yeah, it's a great starter ship. It's a good jack of all trades. It is a premium luxurious starter ship. Has this lovely interior, lovely exterior. has the bragging rights. You're going to look like the snob if you've got you and your pal both buy starter ships and are just starting out the game together. He's in his Aurora or Mustang, which looks like a very sort of run-of-the-mill ship. It's what the plebeians fly. Then you rock up in your 300 beside him, just like, spiffing there, it is not. And yes, that's exactly what it's intended to be. Right, the variants though, so we'll get quickly into this. We'll talk about my favourite variant first, the 325A. This is the thing that I rocked around in for a long time. It ups the guns, and it ups the armour, and it ups the shield. It just ups its combat capabilities. It definitely ups the missiles as well. And it makes one hell. This thing, the 325A, takes your starter ship and gives it full-on fighter capabilities. The Mustang is the other starship that is getting close to like a good fighter, and the 325A, so the Mustang, I can't remember what variant it is of the Mustang, but there's the one that is pure civilian grade fighter. The 325A is once again like civilian grade fighter, is a good fighter for civilian grade. You can get high, you can get the military grade fighters, which will outperform the 325A, but a good pilot in the 325A, I think, would easily be a mediocre pilot in a military grade fighter. So yeah, I love the 325A. It was one hell of a great starship. It was what I spent most of my time in the starship days in. I started off with the Aurora, tried out the Mustang, I went to the Avenger, loved the Avenger, but hated its sort of really sort of poor man's aesthetics, the sort of run down. I felt like I was... Yeah, and then I got to the 325A, which is basically an Avenger Titan with this luxuriousness added, and with it loses some cargo capacity, I think, over the Avenger Titan, but I wasn't caring. I wasn't doing cargo missions anyway. The reason I didn't want the 300 was because I didn't want to downscale my guns from the Avenger Titan. The 325A solved that problem for me. I love the 325A. It's a great little... It is a flying limousine that is also really good at fighting. That is a good way to describe the 325A. It still has a good cargo capacity, and it is brilliant. Brilliant. Right, the 315P now, we will describe how that changes things up. It loses the turret nose gun, so it loses a lot of firepower. It ups the SCU, and it ups the engines, etc. as well, and it makes a great entry-level exploration ship. The nose gun is replaced with a camera for information gathering, and it is going to be great as a scout vessel, your entry-level sort of exploring ship. So if you're wanting to focus on exploring in your starter ship days, the 315 is the premium best sort of way to do that. It is the lowest level exploration ship there is in game, that as far as I'm aware, that I can remember. It'll be great for that. You've got all the amenities from the 300i with like your little bed, your sleeping area, all that stuff. You could live in it just like the 300i, like we've talked about. It is great. It's a flying exploration limousine. And then there's the one last variant, which is the 50R, which is the racing variant, I do believe. Yes, it is the racing variant. So it loses some of the guns, drastically increases the size of the engine. I think it loses some of the interior too, amenities, but it is all about just racing, being really fast. That is. If you want to be a racing person, and this is a good entry-level racing ship for you. So, the 300 series, we have talked about it quite a bit. I think it's time to move on to the next thing alphabetically, which is the 400i. Oh! Every ship we've talked about so far is already released. They're already released in-game. You can play both the 100 and the 300 series in its full, in its total, right here, right now. Moving on to the 400i. The 400i, the new kid on the block, literally released as I am recording this about a week and a half ago, when 3.15's initial release came out. It was leaked Ooh, I think it was leaked roughly a year ago, and on SC Leaks, and then everyone thought, right, it's going to be the surprise ship next patch. Oh, it wasn't. It's going to be the surprise ship next patch after that. Oh, it wasn't. And CIG kept it under their hat right up until CitizenCon just there, where it was officially announced and came in 3.15 as the surprise fully flyable flight ready ship. It is meant to be a sort of step up from the 300 series and is meant to be a competitor to the Constellation class ships that we talked about before in the RSI video. It does feel like a step up from the 300i. It's meant to feel like a huge version of the 300i. To me, it loses some of that luxurious interior. It doesn't feel as nice as the interior of the 300i, to be honest, but I do have a soft spot for the 300i, so I might be being a wee bit pessimistic there. Its main job though is exploration. It does have a big cartography area inside of its sort of living compartment. It is for a small crew. It recommends 1 to 3 people. Doesn't have much in the way of guns though. It is quite lightly on the armament, so this thing is definitely not wanting to get into a fight. It is wanting to be this sort of poor man's pleasure yacht exploration ship. It's kind of what it does, and it is great at what it does. If you want to be like off exploring the reaches of the semi-safe space, it's going to be great for that. It's has the option. Kind of feels like a solo ship, but has the option for then additional crew members, and you're gonna feel like they're worthwhile. It can carry a bike in the front nose, whereas the Constellation can carry either a cargo or a rover, where this thing can carry cargo and a bike. So it kind of feels like a good trade there, because you've got the option of the rover and the Constellation, but then that's going to take up your cargo space, and this you don't have the option for a rover, but you get the bike all the time, and then you can still have cargo. So it's a swing and a miss there, swing and a miss. It is, yeah. It looks really cool, the exterior of it. You're getting that luxury Origin exterior, really nice looking. Lots of amenities. You could easily live in this instead of a hab, much like the 300 series. Yeah. It's a great middle point between the 300i and the 600i, which I think is next on my list. Let's go down to my notes. Yes, the 600i, next on the list. The 600i is once again a step up from the 300i that we just... No, the 400i that we just talked about. To me, this feels much more of a competitor. I'm gonna have to try and stop doing it. I'm doing that too much. It feels like it's a much better competitor to the Constellation, because I feel like it's got the firepower. It can compare to the gunship side of the Constellation, whereas sort of like the 300i feels like a Constellation sort of step down. The 600i feels like a Constellation sort of step up, so it's just on the other side of the spectrum. Has a good amount of firepower on the pilot's guns, so it is quite good if you are getting an alpha strike on your enemies. You will deal a lot of damage. It is a great exploration ship for a small crew, either solo or small crew. It is, yeah, it just blows the 400i out the water in its amenities. It's got a bar, it's got a larger cargo capacity. It doesn't have the bike capacity, so it's sort of becoming like the Constellation there, where it's going to have to choose between the rover or the ground vehicle. It's a great ship. It's got a lot of people really love it, and a lot of people also really hate it. The interior needs to be slightly reworked. A lot of people complain there's a lot of wasted space in this ship at this time. It does come with two variants, the 600i Explorer and the 600i Touring. The Touring has some additional hardpoints, and that is about it. I think that's the way. I think I got it the right way around. One of them has a lounge and one of them has extra utilities. There's not much difference between these ships. I can't remember exactly what the differences were. One has some additional scanning and the other has a lounge. It's probably the Explorer that has the additional scanning stuff and the Touring that has the additional lounge, because if you think about it, Exploring needs scanning to find stuff, Touring, lounge for entertaining people. This is going to be a great ship for if you're wanting to provide some tours, some NPCs or other players type stuff. Have them spend time in your luxurious interior at your bar and your luxurious sort of suites and your that sort of stuff. The double bedroom for the captain at the front is just beautiful. How it sort of has this big giant bed and these huge glass windows right at the front, and looking out is a very sort of luxurious ship. Where the 400i, I was like, a wee bit on the interior. I felt like it lost that from the 300. The 600i definitely brings it back. Though it could use its interior space a wee bit better, and hopefully stuff like that will get fine-tuned and revolutionised when it gets its gold standard sweep. So if it wasn't obvious, the ship is obviously in-game and functioning at this time, with exploration gameplay not there, but you can do everything else in it pretty much. It is a great jack-of-all-trades ship at this point in time, because you do have that heavy firepower on the front, so you can jump in, do some daka combat missions, and you can do some cargo running missions. So yes, once again, just like the 400i, really great solo ship that has real potential to become a lot stronger if you have a couple of friends on it with you. So that's the 400i. Let's move on to what is next, and that will be, according to alphabetical, the 85X. The 85X, in some ways, this is basically just a different style 100i. In other ways, it's... well, it's the... we'll start off. It's the snub fighter that comes free with the 890 jump. It is not a fighter, though. I would not describe it as a fighter. It's a great little runabout, once again, just like the 100i. It is nothing but a glorified runabout. The good thing about this runabout is you have the second seat, so it feels much more car-like if you're in the seat and then you've got someone else that can sit in the seat beside you. It is great on the 890 jump, which we'll talk about later, because if you're taking some people on a tour somewhere, they can get off and fly around in the asteroid field a bit before coming back and parking as part of the amenities that you offer to these posh snobs that are on you for a pleasure cruise. Yeah, not really much else to say. It's another little runabout. That's the 85X. Moving on next alphabetically is the 890 jump, the big boy. Right, the 890 jump. This is the big boy. This is the ultimate pleasure yacht in Star Citizen, and it was the first capital size ship we had in game. So actually, rather weirdly enough, back when I first got into Star Citizen, I used to see quite a lot of these being used in sort of fleet battles, like Org-on-Org fleet battles. They'd have the two 890 jumps and they'd come up and they'd fly around each other and shoot at each other, just because they were the biggest, tankiest ship in game, because it's capital size. It is huge. Its exterior is very nice. Its interior is breathtaking. This thing is beautiful. Has the capacity to carry a lot of passengers in very luxurious sort of accommodation, suites, bars, has a spa, has a swimming pool, has a basketball court. This thing, I can't remember, it had something, has an insane number of rooms. It was, I don't know, I'm just going to say 16, Sun's tell me 69 rooms, but it's always 69 because of that number's nice. Yeah, it has a stocking bay for a snub fighter, so a snub fighter can land in it, which you get the 85X with. the 890 jump, the little runabout we were talking about earlier on. You probably get rid of that 85X almost straight away and replace it with like a 300i, because the 300i would easily fit in there too. Then you're getting much more utility and luxury out of the 300i in there. But yeah, this ship is bragging rights glorified. If you can afford to buy one of these out game, in game, own one, run around in one, it is kind of like if you're kind of throwing your wallet around if you have one of these. It's so many orgs want one just as their negotiation thing for when they're talking. There is a big meeting room in it which has a big fancy table, and you can have lots of people around sitting and having an actual official meeting. It is luxury personified. To what the Kraken was in the Drake video for pirates, the 890 jump is for sort of people that are trying to be more businessmen. That sort of side of things. It's gonna be a giant bragging rights beat stick. Is a good way to describe it. Luxury personified. Not much else to say. Really tanky. For its size, really low on the firepower, but it's really not its thing. Its job's running around, giving people tours, being a luxury transportation ship for VIP passengers. Needs a relatively small crew. It recommends 3 to 8 people too, so it's not bad. It even has onboard armory for militia to protect those luxury VIP guests and that sort of stuff. It's a really good ship for what it does. Its interior is mwah, its space is used quite well in a luxurious sort of style and way. It is Origin personified. This ship is Origin personified. Alright, so we're moving on to the next alphabetical ship, which is the M50. Right, the Origin M50 is, you can tell by giving it one quick look, it is a little racing ship. It is also described as an interceptor. It does have a couple of guns, and you often see them used in-game at the moment as a really fast, nippy fighter that's really hard to take down by NPCs, but is not a fighter. It is not a fighter whatsoever. Apparently, like I was just taking a quick look at the lure there, apparently the Advocacy did purchase a ton of them to make some interdiction ships, but it is not a fighter. It is a racer, it is really fast, it is really nippy. So if it was fighting against a light fighter, you could say, yeah, it's going to have enough firepower to take down the light fighter easily. But you're going to, like, anything so much as sneezes in your direction, you're dead. You're going to be, like, even more so than the light fighter, using your speed and dexterity to stay out of its firing arc, that kind of thing. And anything bigger than a light fighter, you're going to be really struggling to take down the shields. So yeah, a really skilled pilot fighting light fighters, this thing will be okay and it'll be able to pull its weight and do a good job. But anything bigger than that, as soon as you're fighting, say, a medium or heavy fighter, it's going to be really hard just to get through the shields in this thing. Unless you've got a pack of years, but then again, are you really using your players efficiently and just like, coordinating your fire? Yeah, it's a racing ship. It's a racing ship wanting to be a fighter. That's a good way to put it. So let's move on to the next thing here, which is the X1. Right, the X1. I want to just quickly note that everything we have talked about so far has been in-game. This is the first thing that is not in-game, though I do expect it to come relatively soon because it is the bike that fits into the Origin 400i that we talked about earlier on. That's what this thing is. We've got next to no information on it. We've seen what it looks like. It looks like a luxurious bike. It is your premium, high quality touring bike for the 400i. Compared to the other bikes, it has no cargo capacity. Obviously, it's a crew of one. It is slightly on the subpar if you were going to use it for combat or anything like that compared to any of the other bikes, especially with zero cargo capacity. You can't even use it to sort of carry anything. It is just for transporting you, and that's what it's for, getting you from A to B on a bike. It looks really good, it looks really luxurious, it is really cool. You will be able to use it in space because it's hover bike, but not much else to say. I'd almost always rather have a Dragonfly, unless... It's hard because I really like the looks of it though. So it's like I'd almost always want the Dragonfly instead, just because the Dragonfly has that cargo capacity, it has the guns, it does have some radars and computers in it. So there might be some sort of utility there, but we've not got any exploration gameplay yet, so it could be quite a good little scouting vehicle once that sort of stuff comes online, but we'll need to wait and see. We'll need to wait and see. Alright, moving on. The X... Oh, wait. There is a couple of variants to the X I did not realise. I did not know about these. The X1 Force? Oh, let's take a quick look before we move on. I'm guessing... MSI snub. Okay. Modified version featuring an additional sealed generator, and it does look like it's got a gun. Oh, so does the X have a gun? I didn't think it did. So it's got a shield generator. Nice. Okay, and it looks like your interior... Obviously the X1's not made and we just got artwork, but it does look like it stores your interior too. So again, it looks like it's going to be a lot safer to be in these than Dragonflies and that kind of things. It does look like it's got an armament, so that actually makes this thing look like it'd actually be quite a good little bike for fighting in then the X1 Force. Because your interior is going to be hard for the enemy to shoot you. You've got a shield generator on the go there, and you've got an actual nice gun there I can see on the image here. And then the other X1 Velocity looks like it's going the opposite way and it's all about racing. Yeah, it's your racing bike. Eliminates the size 1 weapon mount. So yeah, it does have a size 1 weapon on the gun. On it, huh? So the X series is slightly better than I thought. It is an X series, not just an X1. Nice, I really like the sound of that fighting one with additional shields. I don't think the other bikes had shields at all. Quite good for it. It's like turns it almost halfway between, a bike and a snub fighter. The fighting one, kinda good. It's like a little step up. Right, moving on to the last vehicle that is from Origin. It is a ground vehicle, the G12. The G12 is their luxurious car, basically. It looks really good. It has a cargo, some cargo capacity. It does have a passenger seat. If I have a house, I'm definitely going to have one of these in the garden. Just even if it's just an ornament, it's going to be glorious. It looks really cool. It looks fancy. It looks suave. It's going to be great for exploration too. It's going to be, yeah, just a great little ground-based runabout with a couple of cargo capacity. It does have a gun turret on the top, so it is wanting to be a rover like the Ursa Rover, but it does lose that ability the Ursa Rover has to have like a squad in the back. So, because it's a wee bit smaller on that front. And there is 2 variants. You've got the G12A, which has increased armor capacity and also swaps the gun out for some missiles. So yeah, it will be uply armored. The G12A was in lure purchased by the military as a light, very light AA sort of vehicle to go around with their other vehicles. With its missiles, I don't see how that'd be that great though, because it's only got 4 missiles, so it's going to run out of missiles really fast. I'd rather, like the G12A, if it got to keep the gun and the missiles, then chef's kiss. But because it loses the gun to get the missiles, it kind of, I really don't. I'm struggling now. 4 missiles, gonna run out of ammo really fast. I suppose what type of gun does even the G12 basic one have? There's a laser repair. Yeah, so it's not going to run out of ammo. If it had a ballistic and then it was really low on ammo, then yeah, the missiles might be able to outperform, but I think I'd rather have the laser repeater, because those missiles, you fire them, the most you're going to take out is maybe 1.5, 1 to 2 light fighters with those missiles. And that is again situational. The light fighter might be able to dodge or whatever, I don't know, but at least with the size 1 you can just keep on plinking away after that. Well, it's 2 size 1s, 2 laser repeaters. That laser repeaters will be great at attacking ground targets too, mowing down infantry. And plus, with it being a little light vehicle, would be great for ambushing and moving around and that sort of stuff. I kind of use it kind of like a warthog from Halo. It'd have been great if the up armored one had the gun as well as the missiles, but one or the other. Right, moving on, because we spent too long talking about the G12A to the G12R, which loses the guns again and loses some of the armor, but it does gain bigger engines and an EMP generator. So this thing is a racer that likes to cheat, so to speak, it likes to EMP other racers around it so that they like obviously lose their ability to be on. They get turned off by the EMP in this racing vehicle. Yeah, I could see some use for this in a military sort of situation too, because it's really fast, really nippy. Get in there, EMP, boom. Use it kind of like a EMP suicide bomber almost, so to speak. But with that all said and done, that is all the vehicles for Origin. I do expect there to be a few more in the future. I do expect there to be some more variety. I expect there to be all sorts in here. They're definitely a very luxurious sort of manufacturer. And with that all said and done, I think it's time to say I hope you have all enjoyed this video. And I shall see you all in the next one. Bye bye.